broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching The Moore Show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. Now, for the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. Now, on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Marlene. Now, she's a freelance writer and Cold Fusion web applications developer living in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, in her spare time, she uses automatic writing to produce her column, Words of Mind, which is widely published internationally in spiritual and holistic journals, newspapers, magazines, as well as mainstream media. Now, she joins me today to discuss her work and much more. And Marlene Buffar, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I'm happy to be here.
It's great to have you on. Now, I'm just saying off air there, we've not had much chance to speak off air. We can't straight into the interview, really. Lots of synchronicities here. So yeah, I know a little bit about you, but not much, just a little bit, right? Enough just to push forward the interview. And you're someone I contacted because I'm doing the documentary They Call Us Challers, and I was looking for people that did automatic writing and came across yourself. Now, where do we start with an interview like this? Well, I think first of all, let's just get straight into it. Let me just ask the question. This is for myself as well. When you bring through the automatic writing, what have you been bringing through?
I haven't really brought through anyone I can identify. This is the process. I ask for protection from my protective spirits and guides, and then I ask for a message that is filled with love, that will be meaningful for people who are going to read it. And so I feel that what comes through is free of the ego of the person, of the entity on the other side. So it doesn't become about that entity, it becomes about the message. And so when I say that prayer, I breathe deeply, put my hands over the keyboard, and when my fingers begin to vibrate, I start to type. And I surround myself with white light, and I just go with it. And I very, very rarely edit anything.
So how long have you been doing it for? Let me ask that first.
Oh, I started doing it by hand. Writing filled up many of those little blank books since the early 1980s, I would suspect. Yes, early 1980s. Mm-hmm.
And how did it start for you?
Well, I got those little blank books. They were real popular in the 80s, and I just started writing some poems because I like to write poetry, and I figured nobody would read it anyway, so I would just write. And then all of a sudden I started writing in different text. And I said, oh, well, that's interesting. I've never written like this before. And then I looked through the pages, and the writing is different, distinctively different on all the pages. And I thought, oh, I wonder what's going on here. I really didn't give it too much credence, but then words started coming through that I'd never heard before. And I have a pretty expansive and extensive vocabulary, but some words came through, and I had to actually look them up, and by golly, they were pertinent.
Wow. Okay. And did it ever? Has it changed you as a person doing this work?
I suppose it did, because I felt like it took me a few years, believe it or not, to realize what was going on. I just thought, well, isn't this cool? I'd never heard of this before, and figured if I could do it, probably everyone else could do it too. But then when I kind of realized what was going on and talked to some friends and people about it, I realized not everybody could do this, and I thought, oh, maybe there's something going on here. And so then I kind of felt, well, maybe I've got a little edge or a little gift from the universe that I'm able to do this. I mean, I'm a quick learner, but apparently this time it was slow. So yeah, it has kind of changed me because now I just trust. I trust that the words will come through in the way they're supposed to, in the format they're supposed to impact the people they're supposed to impact.
So, how is it working for you right now then? Are you able to ask a question and then you will use creative writing, or are you just letting whatever flows through come through?
Oh, so that's a great question. So what normally happens is throughout the course of the day, a concept will come into my head, and I'll quickly have to find a piece of paper to write it down. And then later I will go through this process, and I'll kind of think about what all of that means, and then put together like a little essay. I'm accustomed to writing for magazine articles, so they're about 800 to 1,200 words. So I've devised a kind of a process that appeals to magazine publishers.
Yes, because I think you're published in the Sedona Journal, the journal Sedona.
Most likely, yes. Mm-hmm.
Is there books related to the channel writings that you've done, or has it been kept very private?
I did publish a book, which is a compilation of about 2 years of articles, and I segmented them into, I think, 4 subcategories. And it's a very fun book called Full Tummy, Empty Bladder, Warm Bed. And the title was inspired by my dog Winston at the time. He was a very spoiled Doberman Pinscher, and I looked down at him and he looked up at me with his big brown eyes, and I said, "How are you doing, Winston?" And the voice clearly said, "Mom, I'm doing pretty good. My tummy's full, my bladder's empty, and I've got a nice warm bed to sleep in. Thanks."
You intuitively felt that's what came from Winston, yeah?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay, so you've got a bit of clairaudio there, clairaudience. I think
Yes.
that's the right word. Yeah.
So I'm also, Kevin, working on several other books. One is called Voices and Visions, My Life's Journey Beyond the Spectrum. So what we normally see as humans in our spectrum of sensory input, I've always known since a little child that those were just imposed limitations and that I could go beyond those. So that one primarily is going to speak to my experiences with clairaudience, clairvoyance, and things like that. And of course, the whole ghost visuals and spirit interaction. And so, yes, go ahead.
Again, where did you get the title from? Was that intuitively downloaded?
Probably. A lot of this stuff, Kevin, I'm just like, now what would be a good title? And then I kind of put it out there, what would be a good title, and then I let it go. And I know and trust that the right title will come. And sure enough, it comes. And I just don't worry about it. I just detach.
What some of them, I mean, doing it since the sort of early 80s, you must have brought through some fantastic information, some interesting, text. Could you name it? Is there anything that's come through where you think, wow, that's just absolutely out there, but it's fascinating and it makes so much sense?
Wow. You're asking me to go back in the Wayback Machine. At the moment, nothing stands out. At the moment, the things that were coming through made no sense. They were full, complete sentences, and I thought, of what use is this information? And I never really went back to look because I guess I'm not terribly attached to it. So whatever came through, came through. I wish I had something profound or prognosticative that came through, but nothing did that I know of. However, I know that the articles that were published throughout the states and actually throughout the world, as it would happen, made an impact due to the response that I've gotten from the readers. We've had a reader up in northern Arizona wrote me that he read my article every month in a particular little local newspaper there, and he said, "I'm very sad that this newspaper is closing because I really enjoy reading your work. In fact, I'm a psychotherapist, and I use your article every month to help my clients." And I thought, wow, I feel really great about that.
And you can't consciously recollect what some of this information may have been, but obviously, well, that's interesting. So do you not study what comes through sometimes? Do you not try to oh, it's easy for me to say that, isn't it? Because some channelers, they're out of their body when they're channeling, aren't they? They don't remember what's being said. So I guess it's kind of the same process for yourself. Do you think when you're doing the creative writing, you're not present, maybe?
I think I'm present because my hands are on the keyboard, and I do then publish them on my website, and I used to send them out to editors. I am present for the most part, but I just let it go. I step aside. Let's put it that way. I'm looking over my shoulder.
Is that a lot of trust, to trust that the pen's going to write something that makes sense?
There is a lot of trust, yes, and it's never failed. Whenever I've asked, I've gotten it. So it's wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful gift, and sadly, I haven't used it in years. So I need to get back. So thank you for reaching out, because now I'm going to get back to that.
Absolutely. This is how the universe works.
Yes.
This is how it works. Well, you must have a lot of material then.
Yes, I do. May I promote my website? People can go there and look. It's words of mind, WORDS of OF mind MIND.com. And from there, if you click on the Spirit Journal link, you can see the articles that were published. There's also a link there to buy my book. There's also, and the front page there gives you a little excerpt from a daily journal and an excerpt from one of the articles.
Right, absolutely. Oh, that's good. And yeah, there's a number of other links on there as well, of course. To different things that you've got on your website. You can buy the book on the website as well. You can buy your book on there, I believe, as well, directly from your website. Yes. And it's available on Amazon. We'll link it up in the video below, in the description. So you mentioned something there. You mentioned, I'm sure you said you was able to ask, and then it came through. But were you referring there that you could ask? You're able to ask and then write something, or were you referring to, you ask that, that this is able to come through with the highest good, and then whatever comes through comes through?
If I heard your question right, you asked me if I could, when I asked for the highest good and whatever came through. That's affirmative. Yes, that's all I do.
Have you ever tried the other way?
What other way? I don't know any.
Well, the other way of maybe asking a question and then seeing if the automatic writing responds to that.
Yes, I've never published any of that because those were all personal questions, very, very personal. So I would sit down with an intention and ask a question on personal items, matters, and I would get a response. Yeah, do this, do that. In a few days, this will happen. Yes, and those have been, I would say, about 75% accurate.
Right. So are you tempted to go back a bit into that direction when the pen hits the pad again?
Why not?
Why not? There you go. There's the attitude. Right. Well, you may find that ability is there to do that.
I know it's there. I have put it aside for various personal reasons. Life got busy, and I haven't done it. So I'm still grateful for it. I still am very thankful and connected to Source. And It's not that it's no longer a part of me. I just haven't made use of it.
Well, no, you have to do these things when it feels right sometimes as well. You can't be forced,
Yes.
can it?
Right, and I've found the articles that I've produced that came from me alone never really made sense. I mean, they make sense, but they just didn't have that jazz to it, that real inner voice, that pulling together of all of the concepts.
Oh, sorry. So are you saying that when you did ask the questions, it was never as great as actually when you just let it go and flow?
Oh, no, I'm confusing two things. I apologize. When I sat down without asking for help or without asking for spiritual assistance, and I thought, I'm going to control this article, I can do it, they never turned out great. So when my ego got in the way, it never turned out great. When I put my ego aside and said, give me the highest and best that will help all involved, all concerned and all interested, then it let loose. So it's a little lesson we have to learn in our little human experience, that we have to get ego out of the way and step aside and let life take care of us.
Well, yeah, and that's the hard part, isn't it? Well, not the hard part, but that's the challenge. When we live a human existence and experience, and then the best will only come through sometimes when we can come from love in whatever we're doing, and even in the automatic writing that you do, letting love be the guiding factor in that, and not letting the ego take control.
Yes. Now I have another book that I've written called Nina Bellavoce and the New Orleans Time Portal. Now that was an interesting synchronicity we were speaking about earlier. I was due to go on vacation in New Orleans September 12th of 2011. And as your listeners may know, 2001. I apologize. And as your listeners know, September 11th, 2001 was not a good day in the United States. We were attacked, the Twin Towers were attacked. So I was supposed to leave and go to New Orleans the next day, tickets bought, hotel booked. So obviously I had to cancel that trip, and I postponed it until 2002. So I went to 2002, and I rented a little apartment this is before Airbnb and all of that, but I found somebody that was renting her little apartment in the French Quarter. And boy, was this little place active, spiritually, ghost-wise. I woke up one morning from the most fantastic dream. And I was in the French Quarter, and I saw all of these characters in my dream, and it was foggy, and I can still see it all. And something said, you're going to write a book about this. I said, I am? I've never written a novel before. I can't do. So I immediately went into fear, and, I can't do that. So I wrote it. I wrote it, and I love it. It's just not long enough at this point to it has to. I've got to beef it up. Not enough words, and I have to put some more characters in there. But it's done. It's actually copyrighted, but I have to beef it up. So.
Well, yeah, what is the practice to be able to do what you're doing? I mean, is there, if people listen to this right now, is there any sort of do you meditate just before you do any creative writing, or do you is there some sort of practice that you do leading up to putting the pen on the pad?
All I do, Kevin, is just ask for protection and ask for the message. That's really it. I've had abilities since I was probably preschool, and they just came to me, and I again assumed everyone had them because that was the only experience I was aware of. I could talk to my grandmother in Latin and tell her, remember the last time we were here, we wore this and we said this. And I would argue with my mother about names of articles of clothing. Well, we called it this last time we were here. So I've always been in touch with that. So it was kind of no surprise when I discovered my handwritten books were in different writing. But I never really worked at it. So I'm not sure how to advise anyone how to work at it. I think the best advice is to protect yourself above all, and ask for protection before you go into something that may come from the other side.
Yes, because I suppose there's lower astral entities that you can attract as well, isn't there? Because I suppose you act a bit like a door, don't you? Your doors are open or it's closed, and anything can walk through that door, I suppose. But I've not heard of too many cases really where anything negatively possessed someone. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Now, there are a lot of little things going around and that occupy places, and I've certainly seen those as well, and interacted with those as well. But I don't allow them to express themselves through me.
No, I no, because you've got the free will not to, basically. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think it's possible, if someone was to, if when you're doing the creative writing, if someone was to ask you a question, I don't know, about the nature of something, the universe or whatever it may be, right, and you may be able to bring that information through on the pad?
Might be. I've never tried it, but I'm open to it. Could see what happens.
Yeah, there's a new career path here. I can feel it.
That would be great. If I can help people, that would be wonderful.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. That's what it's all about as well. Now, currently you're working in IT, aren't you?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is another form of giving back, isn't it?
Oh, yes. I've created a lot for a lot of people, many, many efficiencies, saved tens to not hundreds of thousands of dollars for people with things that I've created. And again, some of that is inspired as well, because the ideas will come to me, the solutions will come that other people say, how did you think of that? I'm like, I don't know, it just came to me.
But that's how it works, doesn't it? I mean,
Yes.
it's like encyclopedias just falling out of the sky, isn't it? Really.
Sometimes, yes. The other synchronicity, Kevin, is we have a mutual acquaintance, and we won't name him on the air. For some reason, something told me to contact him and let him know I was going to be interviewed by you. Now, of course, consciously, I'm kind of arguing with it and going, why would he need to know this? Why am I supposed to tell him that I'm going to be speaking with Kevin? And it said, just do it. Just contact him and tell him, what can it hurt? And I said, all right. So I contacted this person and told him, and he wrote back immediately. And we both know he's a very busy person. And he said, Kevin is a great guy. You're going to love it. I can't wait to hear the interview. And he said that you had helped him solve a few other cases that he was working on. And
what a small world! What a small world!
Yes,
yeah.
Isn't it fantastic?
Do you think that was your test to just for you to feel that you've still got this connection and it's still connected?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes. And every time I listen and quit arguing with him, which is my first instinct is to argue, everything turns out fine. From little things, from childhood to adulthood, the voice will say, don't go down that road, take the other road. And then I'll say, going the other road, I've got to go out of my way and I'm running late. Don't go down that road, go the other road. Well, if I don't listen and I go down the road I want to go down, there'll be construction or an accident or the road's closed. Had I just listened, I would have gotten home quicker. Now, I also have to tell a little creepy thing several creepy things. If anybody's interested in creepy things, I have been divinely protected throughout my life. It's very wonderful. I have 9 close to death experiences where I have escaped in the last possible second. And the most astounding one was that I most likely escaped an encounter with the serial killer Ted Bundy. And it didn't really hit me until I listened to an interview just last month of a gentleman that wrote a book about Ted Bundy, several books about Ted Bundy. And when I was a freshman at the University of Michigan, I attended a class. It was the first week of January when school resumed after Christmas break. I attended a class on a snowy day, and one of my high school friends was in the class with me. And I said, my car is right in the parking lot across the street. Why don't I drive you back to your dorm? And she said, okay, that would be great, because it's cold and snowy and rainy and all of that. So we're climbing up the stairs, and it's like those outdoor staircases that are enclosed. It's not inside the parking lot. It's separate from the structure. So we're climbing up, and there's a landing. So there's, one flight and a landing, and then another flight and a landing. And we're climbing up, and I look up, and there's a man on the landing on top of us, above us, snapping a necktie. And she's talking. She's staring at the ground and talking as she's climbing. And I'm looking at this man with dark curly hair, and he's smiling, and he's snapping this tie between his fists. And I couldn't say anything. And so he walks down, he's traveling down and we're traveling up. And as he passes us on the stairs, I turn and look at him, and he's standing on this landing below, and he's snapping his necktie. And we get to the landing above, and I open the door, which is not our floor, and I close it behind us. I said, did you see that man? And she said, well, I saw feet walk down, but I didn't pay attention because I was looking at the stairs. I said, he was snapping a necktie. And she said, oh, I didn't see it. She says, well, this isn't our floor. I go, yeah, we're going to wait until this guy's gone, So I hear this interview with the gentleman that wrote this book, and Ted Bundy was in Ann Arbor those 5 days of January. And I thought, oh, my goodness, that was him. So I have no real proof that was him, but it sure looks like him. And I didn't know who it was at the time, but I can tell you I've never forgotten that face.
No, absolutely not. But that goes to... are there no are there no wrongs or rights, just experiences? Are there, in a sense, what's a better way of putting that? Not wrong or rights, but you know what I mean. There's no mistakes. That's what I mean. There's no mistakes. There's just experiences.
Yeah.
Mind you, that could have been a costly mistake if you had crossed that person, probably.
If I was alone. But, something told me to ask her to give her a drive home. So many, and I have 9, that's the most dramatic one. I've got like 9 of those things that have happened. I've counted. I said, wow, boy, somebody must really want me on the planet for a while. It's been interesting.
For sure.
I must have more to say.
Well, you do. That's why, I guess... maybe even if you're on for a short while on the documentary, even if it was a short, part on the documentary, it's still enough to sort of say to yourself, well, there's obviously a bit more to come through yet. There's obviously something more that wants to come through. Maybe there's an evolution of your work. Maybe that's what it is.
It could be. I'm also working on another book that is nonfiction, and it's called Snitch, There Are No Angels in Hell. And that is going to be a book about FBI confidential informants. And that's a kind of a little dark book. But I'm confident, and what's interesting about it is the world of snitches is a very small world. They all know each other. All these criminals know each other. they'll go into one undercover operation and they'll run into a guy that they're snitching on in another It's like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
what a small world.
Yeah, what a small world.
So,
But then you have been through some profound times as well in your life.
yes,
You've lost one of your dear friends, and that was in a murder case, wasn't it?
yes, that was. An acquaintance, we were both served on an alumni board together, and her boyfriend, he was on the board as well, and yes, he murdered her. And I was, for some reason, again, and I just kind of put it out there, for some reason, I was able to influence him to tip his hand, and it ultimately led to his arrest. So I'm glad that whatever influence I was able to wield over him was effective.
Yes. I mean, you just can't make that stuff up, can you? I mean, that must stay with you for the rest of your life, really. But again, have you been able to forgive him?
That's an interesting question. It never occurred to me really to forgive him. I basically resigned that he's exactly where he needs to be in prison. I'm not sure that I've forgiven him, so that's a very good question. I'll have to take a look at that. I know his history and his upbringing, and I get that leopard could not change its spots, and he did what he was designed to do, unfortunately. So in that respect, I can understand why he did it. I'm not sure that I can forgive him because he has free will, and he made the choice to do what he did.
He did, and do you ever think to yourself, well, where my girlfriend is now, that, she doesn't think of these things. It doesn't matter to her anymore, because she's gone back home where she is. None of this. This is just nursery school, But we've
Yes.
yeah. But we feel the pain, though, don't we? Of as though it's we forget our true essence of who we are, and we forget that this is just a bit of a movie, and it's our movie. It's how we direct it, but. There's a bigger picture. That's what I'm saying. Than the murder in a sense. The murder was there maybe for others to grow from.
Yes, and in some levels, we all make agreements before we come to the planet, and so maybe the two of them had an agreement, and we don't know. And I don't typically like to intervene too much in people's experiences because they were put here to learn them. And if I intervene and deprive them, I'm depriving them of what they were here to learn, to evolve and grow. In most aspects, I wouldn't want to see anyone really harmed. And certainly everybody comes to me for advice. Let me tell you, Kevin, they're like, well, what do you think about this? I'm like, stop, I don't want to know. So.
Do you find that, do you? Yeah, I bet you do, actually. I bet you do. Yeah. Well, that's because you're tuned in.
Yeah, most likely, yeah. I can see a lot. And it, you see it for other people, but you tend to not see it for yourself. The physician heal thyself type of thing. So I'm very clear on I can see a lot about them, a lot about other people. I used to be able to experience auras, and not just colors. I would smell and hear and taste and feel, and it was quite an amazing gift until you go in a crowded room. And then it's a bombardment of sensory input that you really didn't want to have. So I pretty much shut that down, unless I feel I need it. And if I feel I need it, if I'm going into a situation that I'm apprehensive about, then I ask for help.
I think so. And we all have unique, different gifts, don't we? And your gift is unique, and no one's can be the same. I don't think there's always a twist on it somewhere, because this is still coming through a human being as well.
Mhm.
So,
I have a friend who has I'll just call it a haunted house. My house is very active as well, but I've kind of squelched them because they were keeping me up at night. But my friend has a very active house, and she has a great niece living with her who's a teenager. So, as you can imagine, the activity has increased because of that youthful energy. And there's quite a few things going on: doors closing, presences appearing, and things like that. So we're working on some relief with that.
oh, so you do that kind of work as well. You can, yeah, you are able to do that as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I can see it. I can see who and what it is, and communicate. Yeah,
You mentioned
yeah.
something interesting there as well that you've been doing. You gave a few readings before from people, so that must be a very different type of reading where you give a reading through automatic writing. Is that how it works, or is it more intuitive?
I've done it both ways. I've done it through writing, and I've done it on the phone. Someone, a friend of a friend, arranged for someone. She said, well, she's got a decision to make, and see what you feel about it. And so we're talking, and all of a sudden, I said, because it came out of my vocal box, "Nice puppy, by the way." And she said, "Oh my God. Did my friend tell you I just got a new dog?" I said, "I know nothing about you." No. She says, "I just got a new dog." I said, "Well, it's really cute." So I, and in the grand scheme of things, what is that worth? Nothing. I mean, it doesn't. Does it impact her life? No. It's it's silly. It's just kind of a fun thing. But it lends credence to, well, maybe other things that are coming through are appropriate and applicable. So if this little minor thing resonates and is true, maybe other things could be true as well. So I don't know.
Well, I think you've got it more worked out than you think.
Perhaps so. Thank you. I never give myself credit.
No,
Or
you don't. I'm going to do it for you there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. I think you do.
So yeah.
Yeah, I would be. Well, you see, that's what I like about you. Is I'll be honest. One of the reasons for getting you on the documentary as well is you're not in a, this isn't your professional work in a sense, and I'm not taking anything away from it. I'm just saying this is not your kind of full-time job. That's what I mean, right?
Right.
And we
Right.
wanted to show that on the documentary that anybody can do this. We all have our unique gifts, and you do
Yes.
have yours, and you're not, it's not swallowed away in any egotism. It's just something that you do which we don't put all your stock in, and you're kind of, just playing around with it, as you may say. I'm personifying your words here greatly, right? But and it's because of that interests me to show that, basically.
Yeah, it's not who I am, it's what I allow. What I allow. Because at one point, Kevin, the communication got demanding. We want to talk now. And I'm like, no, you're not talking now. This is my body and my life, and you're not talking now. Leave me alone. And at that point, I think I'd had enough, and I just shut it down. Because once it became an interference and an impediment in what my life experience needed to do, I wasn't going to allow that.
Well, because you still have free will in this all. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah, you're not possessed
Yeah.
or something, right? Yeah, it's all done with free will. Yeah.
So we have to, as humans, be cognizant of our own individuality and of our own soul and our own essence and our own spirituality, all the while be willing and allow to step aside to let something else come through. And I read something somewhere that was kind of amusing. It says, now, what makes you think these people are any smarter dead than they were alive? So, kind of true, right?
That is kind of true. That is kind of true. But then maybe, do you think they see a bigger aspect of themselves, and and they remembered aspects of themselves that was there before they crossed over to have the human experience?
Perhaps, yeah. I kind of, when I see them hanging out in houses and things, it's like, why are you here? Just go. It's happier wherever. Go to that light over there. It's going to be happier for you. Why are you stuck here? So we've had those conversations, and I went to a house once, and I said, well, who's that grumpy old guy in the rocking chair? And they said, what are you talking about? And the chair's moving, of course, nobody's in it. But and they said, well, here's a family photo album. Can you pick him out? And I go, well, it's him right here. He's cussing up a storm. I said, he's really pissed off about something. And they said, oh, that's our great-grandfather. Okay. So
beautiful though to get that confirmation, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I've only encountered a few really negative experiences or entities. I had a job once in the early 80s where I had to go into people's homes and sell something I didn't believe in. It wasn't door to door. It was by appointment sales. It was a horrible job. So I've been in countless homes, and I went in a home, and of course, all the hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and it was a real old home, and I thought, nah, you're only doing this because it's old and it's low ceilings. And they said, well, we'd show you this room, but our evil seed child is sleeping in there. I'm like, what? And she says, yes, our child is evil, and she's sleeping in that room. I'm like, great. So we opened the door, and it was ice cold. I'm like, I'm going to leave her be, And then I turned around, and I see this kitchen from the 1700s, and there's this woman chopping heads off of chickens in this kitchen. And I said, I go, was that a kitchen originally? And I pointed over, and she goes, oh, yeah, that's the kitchen. I said, well, there's some woman in a brown dress with a green apron chopping heads off of chickens in there. I said, so, this is pretty interesting. Here I am, a salesperson, and I'm telling them about this house. It was kind of fun.
Well, was the girl possessed or something?
Apparently so, and I just knew that was way above my, as they say, pay grade. I wasn't going to get into that. I was trying to make a sale, but not really. At this point, I was just trying to leave,
Yeah. By the way, here's your vacuum cleaner, but also,
yeah.
Should we just get Father Ted in, and we'll just, that's kind of, Yeah, that would put. That's not in your job description, but it just goes to show you were able to sense that even then as well. You've always been.
When I walked in the door. One more funny when I went into another old farmhouse, one of those 2 stories with a basement and all of that, and so I was selling windows. That's what I was selling. Very expensive windows. It cost more than this house was ever worth. And they were very good, but I believed in the product, but thought these people can't afford to buy these things. And so they're showing me around, and she said, and I could feel it. And I just kind of laughed because she said, we've never really felt quite at home in this house. And I'm like, well, I wonder why, And I don't say anything. And she said, we can just sit in the living room, and every window in the house will just open up for no reason. I'm like, yeah. I go, need new windows,
These are ghost proof, these ones. You're going to bless these ones, yeah.
Yeah. So, and at some point, we were going to go upstairs, and I said, sorry, I'm not going up there. and I didn't go up there. Some things you just don't need to walk into, So it's been a fun life, as far as all of this goes, because I think I see things more than most people. I don't know, because I've never lived in anyone else's head, So I think I do, because most people tell me they can't do this. Okay. And So, and as I said, I'm divinely protected. I've been protected so many times. And I'm so blessed and I'm grateful, and before my feet hit the floor every morning when my eyes open, I say my litany of gratitude, that I'm so thankful for all that I have and all that I am and all that I hope to have and all that I hope to become, and that I can serve in the highest and best way.
And you do that just for doing the job that you're doing as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
that's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
That's beautiful. Well, you'd be pleased to know that we're all, well, not pleased to know. Actually, we was having a lot of fun there speaking with yourself. But it's gone so quick. 49 minutes already. Where did they
Wow.
go? Where did they go?
I don't know.
No, we've travelled in time or something. Well, look, I'm really looking forward to seeing you, and just give us your website just one more time.
wordsofmind.com.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's been coming up on the screen along with your book and the and your contact details as well, intimately. And I just like to say, just thank you so much, Marlene, for joining us today.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's been a pleasure and a great ride. Thank you.